The cry did not sound like any goat he had ever heard. Jonas sat up in bed, heart pounding, listening to the thin farmhouse walls. Another cry came, sharp, desperate, muffled in the dark. He knew at once it came from the barn. He grabbed a lantern and hurried across the yard, his boots crunching on cold gravel. Inside the barn, the smell of hay and animals wrapped around him. His old goat, Lila, lay on her side, sides heaving, eyes wide. She was in labor. Jonas had been waiting for this moment for weeks. He loved Lila like family. She had carried every pregnancy strong, steady. But tonight, something felt wrong. Her cries rose, breaking in his chest. He set the lantern down, whispering, "Easy, girl. I'm here." He knelt, reaching toward the hay where she strained. Then came silence. A shape slipped into the straw. One kid, breathing, moving. Relief filled him until his eyes caught something else beside it. Another shape, smaller, still wrong. Jonas froze. The lantern trembled in his hand. He leaned closer, and then he dropped the light, his breath catching in horror. What lay in the hay was nothing he had ever seen before. Subscribe so you don't miss what Jonas discovers next. What would you do if your goat gave birth to something unexplainable? Jonas's lantern sputtered on the ground, its light flickering across the straw. He swallowed hard. The first kid, a strong little buckling, already kicked at the hay, searching for its mother's warmth. Perfect, healthy, exactly what he had prayed for. But the second one, it lay beside the first, half hidden in the shadows. Its body looked wrong, legs too thin, bent in awkward directions, its face pressed into the straw, unmoving. Jonas reached out a trembling hand and brushed away the wet hay clinging to its skin. Cold, lifeless. He felt his stomach sink. "No!" Behind him came a soft voice. "Papa?" Jonas turned. His daughter Anna stood barefoot in the doorway, her nightdress trailing behind her. She was only 15, but she loved Lila as fiercely as he did. She had heard the cries, too. Anna gasped when she saw the straw. Did she lose one? Jonas opened his mouth to answer, but then the thing in the straw moved. Just a twitch, barely noticeable. Anna rushed forward, dropping to her knees. "Papa, it's alive!" Jonas froze, staring. Sure enough, the frail little body stirred again, a faint sound coming from its throat. Not quite a bleat, almost a whimper. Anna cupped her hands gently around the newborn. "It's breathing." Jonas felt torn in two. His first instinct was to turn away. Something about the creature unsettled him, made his skin crawl. Its head seemed swollen, its spine arched, and one ear drooped at a strange angle. Yet in Anna's hands, it shivered and tried to push forward, desperate for life. Lila bleated weakly, lifting her head. Her eyes found her daughter, then the small, twisted kid. She let out a deeper, fiercer sound, protective, maternal. She dragged herself up and nosed both babies closer to her belly. Anna looked up, her eyes wide with determination. "She wants them both, Papa." Jonas pressed a hand over his mouth. His heart pounded. "Anna, look at it. It isn't right. If people see this, they'll talk. They'll say what?" Anna demanded. "That it doesn't deserve to live?" Jonas said nothing. The barn filled with the sound of the healthy kid suckling, the rustle of hay. The second one tried to move, but its legs buckled beneath it. It collapsed, squeaking in frustration. Anna slid closer, steadying it with both hands. "He's fighting," she whispered. "He wants to live." Jonas felt the weight of years pressing on his shoulders. He had seen animals born weak before. Most didn't make it. Some were put down quickly, mercifully. That was farm life. But this felt different. The way Lila nuzzled the strange little body. The way Anna held it, like it was the most precious thing she'd ever touched. He looked at the lantern, at the fragile glow trembling across the barn walls. He wished his late wife was here. She would have known what to do. She always had more kindness in her than he did. Finally, Jonas muttered, "Get some blankets. And milk. We'll see if it makes it through the night." Anna's face lit up. She darted toward the farmhouse, her bare feet thudding on the dirt. Jonas stayed with the goats. He crouched near Lila, watching the weaker kid press against her side. Somehow, despite its twisted legs and misshapen body, it latched on. Awkward but determined, Jonas whispered, "God help us." By morning, the story had already spread. The village was small, too small for secrets. Jonas hadn't told anyone, but someone must have heard the cries in the night or seen the lantern glow. By breakfast, neighbors were knocking on his door. Old Marta, who lived 2 farms over, was the first. She peered into the barn, muttering prayers under her breath when she saw the creature. "That's not right, Jonas. That's a bad sign." Another man shook his head. "You can't let that thing live. It'll bring misfortune. Best to put it down now before—" Anna stepped in front of them, her chin high. "He's just a baby goat. He's not cursed. He's ours." The neighbors exchanged uneasy glances. Whispers turned to murmurs. By midday, half the village had heard. Some came out of curiosity, some out of fear. Children pointed, wide-eyed. Mothers pulled them back, muttering warnings. Jonas felt the pressure mounting. His land depended on good standing in the community. He needed their trust, their trade. But when he looked at the small, fragile goat curled against Lila's belly, he saw not a curse but a struggle, a will to live against all odds. That evening, when the crowd had gone and the barn was quiet again, Jonas sat with Anna. They watched the 2 kids sleep in the straw. The healthy one, strong and restless. The weaker one, frail but breathing. "Papa," Anna whispered, "if we let them take him away, Lila will never forgive us. Neither will I." Jonas closed his eyes. He remembered the fire in the villagers' voices, the fear in their eyes. But he also remembered his wife, years ago, kneeling beside a dying lamb, refusing to give up on it. She had stayed awake all night, feeding it by hand. It had grown into the strongest sheep on the farm. When he opened his eyes again, he saw Anna's hands cupping the weaker goat's head, saw the determination shining there. "We'll keep him," Jonas said quietly. "But no one must know. Not yet. Do you understand?" Anna nodded. Relief washed over her face. She pressed her cheek against the tiny goat's head. "Thank you, Papa." Jonas stood, his back aching, his heart heavy. He knew the decision was dangerous. Secrets had a way of slipping out, and if the village turned against them, he looked at the barn doors, shut tight against the night. Beyond them lay a world of whispers and judgment. But inside, for now, was only family, and one fragile life clinging to its first breaths. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Jonas tried to work his fields, mend fences, tend to the soil, but wherever he went, eyes followed him. At the market, voices dropped to hushed tones as he passed. At the well, neighbors turned their backs. The story had grown far beyond what had truly happened. They called it names. Not kid or goat, but thing, creature. Some even whispered demon. Anna heard it too. She clenched her fists whenever she walked into the village with her father. She wanted to shout at them, tell them how the little goat had grown stronger every day, how it had learned to stand on its crooked legs, stumbling but determined. But Jonas had warned her. "Let them talk," he muttered. "Words can't harm us." But Anna knew words could harm. They cut deeper than knives. Back in the barn, far from the stairs, life was different. Lila nursed both kids with equal care. Her strong, healthy buckling pushed at her side greedily, but when the weaker one tried, she always shifted, making space for him. More than once, Jonas saw her nudge the larger kid aside, protecting the fragile one. "She knows," Anna whispered one morning, stroking Lila's head. "She knows he needs her more." Jonas said nothing, but his throat tightened. By the end of the week, whispers turned into knocks. 3 men came to his door, neighbors, longtime friends who had shared meals and helped raise barns. Their faces were grim. "You can't keep it," one said. "It's not natural. People are frightened." Jonas tried to keep his voice steady. "It's just a goat." "A goat?" the second man spat. "Look at it, limping around like some half-formed beast. Don't pretend you don't see it." The third man leaned closer, lowering his tone. "Jonas, you're a good man. But if you don't do the right thing, this village won't trade with you. We won't stand by and let misfortune spread." Anna appeared in the doorway before Jonas could answer. Her eyes blazed. "He's not a curse. He's alive. He's ours." The men glanced at her, uncomfortable, but none softened. They turned and left without another word. Jonas shut the door hard, his chest heavy with shame and anger. Anna burst out, "Why do they hate him? He's done nothing wrong." Jonas rubbed his temples. "Because people fear what they don't understand, and fear makes them cruel." She shook her head, tears brimming. "Then we have to be braver than they are." That night, Jonas couldn't sleep. He walked to the barn, lantern in hand, and found Lila awake, chewing slowly, her babies curled against her. The healthy kid slept soundly, belly round with milk. The weaker one twitched, its breath shallow but steady. Jonas knelt beside them. He watched as Lila lowered her head and licked the fragile kid's face, tender and deliberate. When the stronger sibling shifted too close, Lila stretched out one leg, blocking him, guarding the weaker one. Jonas whispered, "Even you know, don't you, that he deserves a chance?" The goat blinked at him, calm and steady. In that moment, he felt his resolve harden. He couldn't give the kid up, not to the whispers, not to the fear. But what if keeping it meant losing the village, losing everything he'd built? He sat in the straw until dawn, torn between two loyalties, the community that had carried him through winters and the fragile life breathing beside him. The pressure grew. Children threw stones at his fence, daring each other to get close. Someone carved a crude symbol into his barn door. At the tavern, Jonas overheard men saying the creature would bring disease, ruin harvest, curse the land. Anna begged him not to listen. She spent every spare moment in the barn, whispering to the little goat, coaxing it to walk, to push against her hand. She named him Ash, because he was small and gray, and because she said ashes are what's left after fire, and fire never wins. Jonas didn't argue, though the name unsettled him. One evening, when the sun dipped low and painted the sky in red and gold, Anna ran into the house, breathless. "Papa, come see." Jonas followed her to the barn. Ash stood on wobbly legs, swaying, trembling, but standing. Anna clapped her hands. "See? He's fighting. He's strong." Jonas felt a strange warmth spread through him. Pride, fear, both at once. But then a shadow crossed the doorway. Old Marta stood there, her face pinched with disapproval. She shook her head slowly. "Jonas," she said, her voice like cold water, "you're choosing this thing over your own people. That never ends well." Anna's joy faltered. She pressed closer to Ash, shielding him with her arms. Jonas straightened, his hands curled into fists. "He's mine. He stays." Marta's eyes narrowed. "Then God help you." She turned and left, her mutters trailing into the night. After she was gone, silence pressed in. Anna looked up at her father, eyes wide. "What if they hurt him, Papa?" Jonas didn't answer. He only looked down at Ash, the fragile little goat who had somehow survived another day. His heart wavered between two truths: the fear of losing his place in the village, and the certainty that if he gave up this fight, he would never forgive himself. Above him, the barn rafters creaked in the wind. Lila shifted, drawing her babies close, her body forming a barrier of warmth around them. In that quiet, Jonas realized something. It wasn't only Anna who had chosen Ash. It was Lila, too, and perhaps even himself. Still, outside the barn walls, the whispers were growing louder, and whispers had a way of turning into something far more dangerous. The knock came on a Sunday morning. Jonas opened the farmhouse door and found a man standing on the porch. He wore a long coat, dusty from travel, and carried a leather satchel slung over one shoulder. His eyes were sharp but kind. "You're Jonas?" the man asked. Jonas nodded slowly. "And you are?" "Dr. Samuel Holt. I'm a veterinarian. I heard rumors, and I came to see for myself." Jonas stiffened. His instinct was to slam the door. The last thing he needed was another outsider judging him. But Anna's voice drifted from behind him. "Papa, please, let him in." The barn smelled of hay and warm earth. Lila lifted her head as they entered, her ears twitching. Ash lay curled against her belly, his crooked legs tucked awkwardly beneath him. His stronger brother climbed over him, playful, oblivious. Dr. Holt crouched low, speaking softly. Beautiful doe. She's protecting them. Jonas folded his arms. The village calls the little one a curse. The vet didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his satchel, pulling out clean cloth and instruments worn smooth from years of use. With steady hands, he lifted Ash, who squeaked in protest. Anna gasped, but Holt murmured gently, "Easy, little fellow. Let's have a look." The examination was quiet, precise. Holt checked Ash's breathing, his legs, his spine. Jonas paced, restless. Anna clung to the stall door, biting her lip. Finally, Holt set Ash down again, letting him wobble back toward Lila. The goat bleated and licked her kid's head, as if thanking the stranger for returning him. Holt stood, brushing straw from his coat. His expression was calm, but his words carried weight. This kid isn't cursed. He was born with congenital defects. Rare, but not unheard of. His bones are weaker, his joints bent, but he's alive. And if you care for him, he can live a real life. Anna's eyes shone. So he's normal? Just different. The vet smiled faintly. Different, yes. Fragile, but not a monster. Jonas exhaled slowly. Relief washed through him, mixed with dread. He had hoped for an answer, but the truth didn't erase the village's fear. Will he always be like this? Jonas asked quietly. Likely, Holt said. He may never walk as strong as his brother. But strength isn't always measured in how far you can run. Anna knelt beside Ash, stroking his small head. See, Papa? He deserves to live, just like I said. Jonas felt his chest tighten. He wanted to believe the vet's words. But what would the village say when they heard? As if summoned, they arrived. By afternoon, half a dozen neighbors crowded outside the barn, their voices sharp with suspicion. Someone had seen the stranger and spread the word. What's he doing here? Marta demanded, her arms crossed. Filling your head with lies? Holt stepped forward, unafraid. I'm no liar. I've studied animals all my life. That kid is no curse. He's rare, yes, but worthy of care. The crowd muttered, shaking their heads. One man spat in the dirt. Worthy of care? It's a freak. Keeping it will bring sickness. Superstition, Holt said firmly. Fear doesn't make truth. But Marta's voice rose, cold and unwavering. Then let him take it with him, if he's so sure. Let him carry the burden away. Anna's face went pale. No, he belongs here, with Lila, with us. The barn filled with the noise of argument. Fear against reason, cruelty against compassion. Jonas stood in the center, torn in two. His people demanded obedience. His daughter pleaded for mercy. His goat lay watching, calm but fierce, as though she trusted him to choose. When the shouting grew too loud, a sharp sound cut through it. A bleat. Lila rose suddenly, her strong body shielding both kids. She lowered her head, stomping one hoof hard against the floorboards. Her eyes blazed, fixed on the crowd at the door. The barn fell silent. Even the harshest neighbor stepped back. It was as if Lila herself had spoken, daring anyone to challenge her claim. Dr. Holt folded his arms. There's your answer. A mother knows. She doesn't care about curses or gossip. She sees only her child. Jonas's throat tightened. His gaze swept from Lila to Anna, then to the villagers. Finally, he spoke. He stays. This is my farm. My family. If any of you can't accept that, you can leave. The silence stretched, heavy and tense. One by one, the villagers turned away. Marta lingered longest, her face like stone, but even she said nothing more. When the last had gone, Anna flung her arms around her father. You chose right, Papa. Jonas hugged her back, but his eyes lingered on the dark path beyond the barn. He knew this wasn't the end. The village would not forget. That night, Jonas invited Holt to stay for supper. They ate simple stew by the fire, the crackle of flames filling the quiet. Why did you come? Jonas asked finally. Holt shrugged. I've seen this before. Too many times. Good people made cruel by fear. Animals suffering because no one dared to stand for them. I thought maybe this time could be different. Anna smiled softly. It will be. We'll take care of him. The vet's eyes warmed. Then he has the best chance of all. Jonas stared into the fire, his mind restless. He had made his choice, but the cost of it loomed. Protecting Ash meant defying the village. And defying the village meant standing alone. Outside, the wind carried faint whispers through the dark. Voices that did not forget. Voices that would not forgive. But in the barn, under Lila's watchful gaze, a small, fragile creature breathed on, alive, against all odds. The night was still, too still. Jonas lay in bed, half dreaming, half listening to the creaks of the farmhouse. Anna's room was quiet down the hall. Outside, the crickets had gone silent. He turned over, uneasy. Then came the smell, faint at first, drifting through the open window. Smoke. Jonas sat bolt upright. His heart pounded. He knew at once where it came from. The barn. He snatched his boots, his voice tearing through the house. Anna, get up. She stumbled into the hallway, eyes wide, clutching her shawl. Papa, what? Fire. Together, they ran across the yard. Orange light licked at the dark sky, rising from a barn's roof. The crackle of flames roared louder with every step. Lila! Anna screamed. The barn doors were already glowing, smoke pouring through the gaps. Jonas yanked them open, heat slamming into his face. The fire was spreading fast, crawling up the rafters, devouring hay bales stacked high. Inside, Lila bleated wildly, stamping the ground. Her kids cried shrilly, trapped in their pen. Jonas shoved Anna back. Stay out here. No. She tried to follow, but the smoke drove her back, coughing. Jonas pulled his shirt over his mouth and plunged inside. The air seared his throat. Every breath burned. He staggered toward the stall, shielding his eyes from the sparks. Lila stood tall, refusing to abandon her babies. She pressed against the gate, eyes rolling in terror, but her body blocked the flames from reaching her kids. Easy, girl. Jonas croaked, fumbling with the latch. His hand slipped on the hot metal. He cursed, pull harder, until the gate burst open. Lila surged forward, knocking him back. But instead of fleeing, she turned, nudging both kids with her head, forcing them out of the stall. Anna appeared at the doorway, screaming, Papa, hurry! Jonas scooped the stronger kid into his arms, shoving it toward Anna. Lila pushed Ash ahead, the little goat stumbling, legs buckling on the burning straw. A beam above cracked, crashing the ground in a spray of sparks. Jonas grabbed Ash, tucking him against his chest. The heat pressed against his skin like knives. He staggered toward the light, toward Anna's outstretched hands. But another beam fell, blocking the way. Papa! Anna's voice was shrill with terror. Jonas spun, searching for another path. Flames closed in on every side. The barn groaned, its roof sagging. Lila bleated, fierce and wild, shoving at Jonas with her horns, her eyes burning with the same fire around them. She charged toward the fallen beam, ramming it again and again until it shifted, just enough to clear a narrow gap. Go! Jonas shouted, driving Lila through. He shoved Ash into Anna's arms, then pushed the larger kid after her. But before he could follow, another crash split the night. The roof buckled. The flames roared louder, greedier. Jonas staggered back, pinned by fire. He coughed, his vision blurring. Papa! Anna screamed, clutching both kids, her face streaked with soot and tears. Lila turned. She stood in the flames, her coat singed, her eyes locked on Jonas. Then she lunged, striking his shoulder with all her weight, driving him through the gap and out into the cool night air. They collapsed onto the dirt. Anna threw herself at him, sobbing, You're alive. Oh, Papa. Jonas coughed hard, his chest searing. He pulled her close, feeling the trembling bodies of both kids press against him. He looked back toward the barn. It was engulfed now, flames clawing at the sky. The roof groaned once more, then collapsed in a thunder of sparks. Lila stood just beyond the rubble, singed but alive, her sides heaving, her eyes fixed on her babies. She had driven him out first, saved him when he thought all was lost. Anna cried into her father's chest. "She's a hero." Jonas couldn't speak. His throat was raw, his eyes stung, but his heart swelled with something fierce and unshakable. They had lost the barn, lost tools, hay, feed, everything, but they had each other. And Lila had proved what Jonas already knew deep down. That love, even from an animal, could burn brighter than fear. The fire drew the village like moths. Neighbors came running with buckets and shouts, but it was too late. The barn was gone. In the smoking ruins, Jonas stood with his arm around Anna. The kids at their feet, Lila pressed close. Ash wobbled on unsteady legs, so clinging to his thin coat. The villagers stared, whispering. One man muttered, "How did they survive that?" Another shook his head. Not natural, but Marta said nothing. For the first time, her sharp eyes wavered. She had seen it with her own eyes. The mother goat fighting through fire, shielding her children, saving the farmer's very life. Compassion flickered across her face, but only for a moment. Then she turned away, her shawl pulled tight. Jonas raised his head. His voice was hoarse, but strong. "My barn is gone, but my family is alive. If any of you still think this goat is a curse, then you didn't see what I saw tonight." The villagers shifted uneasily. Some dropped their gazes. None spoke. Anna clutched Ash close, whispering fiercely, "See? He's meant to live." Jonas placed a hand on her shoulder. He looked at the tiny goat, fragile but unbroken, and knew she was right. The barn could burn. The whispers could rise. But as long as they had each other, they could not be undone. Still, as the night dragged on and the embers cooled, Jonas felt the weight of the loss settle deep. The fire had spared their lives, but it had taken nearly everything else. Tomorrow, he knew, the village's fear would return. Crueler, louder. But for now, in the glow of the ashes, they were alive. And that was enough. The fire had eaten the barn to its bones. For days, smoke clung to the farm, seeping into clothes, into skin, into every breath. Blackened beams jutted up from the rubble like broken ribs. Tools were gone. Hay was gone. The old place that had sheltered animals for decades was nothing but ash. But the family was alive. And so was Ash. Jonas woke each morning to the sound of him bleating weakly for milk, to Anna's laughter as she coaxed him onto his crooked legs, to Lila's steady hum of love as she licked her kids clean. The fire had left scars, but it had not taken them. They built a makeshift shelter from tarps and old wood while neighbors watched from a distance. Some came to offer sympathy, others only to stare. Whispers followed Jonas wherever he walked, but the words were softer now, tinged with something that almost sounded like doubt. Ash grew stronger by the day. His steps were clumsy, his legs still bent, but he learned to follow Anna across the yard, stumbling after her voice. Every time he fell, he scrambled back up, determined. He never gave in. Anna beamed with pride. "See, Papa? He's tougher than all of them." Jonas only nodded, though his throat ached with emotion. Weeks passed. Life settled into a rhythm of rebuilding. Jonas cut new beams, hammered nails until his hands blistered. Anna gathered feed from kind neighbors who, despite their words, couldn't ignore a child asking for help. Lila stood guard over her kids, as fierce as ever. Slowly, something began to change. One afternoon, Marta appeared at the fence. Her sharp eyes fell on Ash, tottering across the yard, chasing after his brother. His gait was crooked, his body slight, but his spirit was fierce. He stumbled, fell, bleated in frustration. Then he got up again, over and over. For a long time, Marta said nothing. Finally, she sighed, her shoulders sagging. "That little one, he doesn't give up, does he?" Anna's face lit. "No, ma'am. He never will." Marta nodded once, then turned away, but not before Jonas saw the softness in her eyes. By summer, the whispers had shifted. At the market, instead of curses, Jonas overheard curiosity. "How's the little one? Still alive?" Anna proudly answered, "Alive and strong." Children who once threw stones now lingered by the fence, giggling as Ash wobbled toward them, bleating for attention. Their mothers pulled them back at first, but when they saw no harm, they began to let them stay. Soon, laughter replaced fear. Small hands reached through the fence to scratch Ash's head. He nuzzled them eagerly, unbothered by their giggles. The village, humbled, began to see what Jonas and Anna had always seen. Not a curse, but a creature who refused to quit. The day the new barn was finished, the whole village came. At first, Jonas didn't want them there, but Anna insisted. They need to see him, she said. They need to see what love can do. So the doors were opened wide, the smell of fresh cut would filling the air. Lila stepped inside first, her kids following close behind. Ash stumbled on the threshold, nearly falling, but then he straightened, pushing forward into new home built from ruin. The villagers watched, silent. Jonas looked at their faces, worn, weathered, uncertain. He spoke anyway, his voice steady. You all called him cursed. You told me to end his life. But look at him now. Weak, yes. Different, yes. But alive. Alive because we chose compassion over fear. Anna stood beside him, her hand resting on Ash's thin back. He's not a monster. He's proof. Proof that even the smallest, weakest one can survive if someone loves him enough. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a boy stepped forward, his eyes wide. He crouched low, holding out a hand. Ash tottered toward him, nuzzling his fingers. The boy laughed, pure and bright. And just like that, the tension broke. Smiles spread. Laughter rippled. Even Marta, standing stiff and proud, let the corner of her mouth curve into something softer. That night, as the sun bled gold across the fields, Jonas sat on the porch with Anna. Lila grazed nearby, her kids close. Ash stumbled after his brother, tripping over uneven ground, but every time he fell, he rose again. Jonas watched him, his heart full. The barn was gone, but rebuilt. The whispers were cruel, but silenced. And the goat who was never meant to live had become something greater than any of them imagined. A symbol of resilience. Anna leaned against her father's arm. Mama would have loved him. Jonas swallowed hard, blinking at the horizon. Yes, she would have seen what you saw, before I did. They sat in silence, listening to the gentle sound of the farm, the wind in the grass, the soft bleating of goats, the steady heartbeat of life moving forward. Jonas breathed deep, the air cool and clean. For the first time in months, there was no smoke, only hope. He looked at Anna, at Lila, at Ash standing crooked and proud beneath the fading sky. Family, not bound by perfection, but by survival, by love. And in that moment, Jonas knew they had already won.